Have you ever been haunted? Not by ghosts, but by something far more sinister? Something that creeps into your thoughts, wraps itself around your mind, and refuses to let go? This is the story of a woman, her struggle to find herself, and a mysterious yellow wallpaper that slowly consumes her world. Locked away in a remote mansion, her mind begins to unravel. What starts as discomfort becomes an obsession, and what lies behind the wallpaper could change everything. Why is she here? Who is the woman she sees in the wallpaper, and will she ever escape? This is not just a story of madness. It's a chilling exploration of confinement, control, and the desperate fight for freedom. Stay with us as we unravel the gripping tale of the yellow wallpaper. The secrets hidden in this room will keep you on the edge of your seat, and the shocking ending will leave you speechless. The answers are waiting just behind the wallpaper, but beware, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Imagine arriving at a mansion, a massive, secluded relic of the past, hidden deep in the countryside. Its beauty strikes you at first: sprawling gardens, towering trees, and rooms big enough to echo your voice. But as you step closer, a chill runs through you. Our story begins with a woman, frail and nervous, brought here by her husband John. But from the moment she steps into the house, she feels it. Something isn't right. The silence is too loud, the shadows too long, and the air heavy with an unspoken presence. Meet our narrator, a young woman yearning for freedom but trapped in her own fragile mind. Or so John believes. Her husband, a respected doctor, takes control of her every move, prescribing rest, silence, and most cruelly of all, no writing. "It's for your own good," he says with a knowing smile. But her heart aches for the release of pen to paper. She hides her journal in secret, pouring her soul into it while the walls seem to watch her every move. She wants to trust him, but how can she when her instincts scream otherwise? This is where she will stay. The top-floor nursery, a room where the walls seem alive. The wallpaper is yellow, but not the cheerful kind. No, it's a sickly, smoldering yellow with strange, twisting patterns that almost seem to writhe when you look too closely. "Don't worry about the room," John tells her, laughing off her concerns. But how could she not? The bars on the windows, the bed bolted to the floor, the endless scratches on the wood. It feels less like a sanctuary and more like a prison. She tries to push the unease aside, but the wallpaper won't let her. It pulls at her thoughts, whispering secrets only she can hear. She doesn't know it yet, but this room will change her life forever. The days pass slowly, each one blending into the next. For her, isolation is suffocating. John insists she spends her time resting, staying calm, avoiding excitement. But how can she rest when her mind is so full? She stares at the garden beyond the bars, longing to be part of the world she can see but cannot touch. The journal under her bed becomes her only escape, a secret outlet for the words she's forbidden to speak. John, meanwhile, remains steadfast. He monitors her condition like an experiment, brushing off her protests with the authority of a doctor. He calls it care. She calls it confinement. The wallpaper is no longer just an ugly decoration. It's alive. The longer she stares, the more it reveals. Shapes emerge from the swirling patterns. Faces, bodies, shadows writhing just beneath the surface. She begins to trace the lines with her fingers, trying to make sense of them. She writes feverishly in her journal, describing the wallpaper's bizarre hold over her. It's like there's something behind it. She whispers to herself. Something trying to get out? Every moment she spends in that room pulls her deeper into its spell. The wallpaper isn't just yellow, it's becoming her obsession. She tries to explain it to him. The wallpaper, the patterns, the way it makes her feel. But John only laughs, dismissing her fears as imagination. "You're overthinking it," he says with a smile. "Trust me, you'll feel better soon." But she doesn't feel better. She feels trapped. Trapped by the room, by the wallpaper, by John's inability to listen. At night, while he sleeps, she writes in her journal, pouring out her confusion, her fear, her growing obsession. She wants to tell him how much the wallpaper disturbs her, but what's the point? He'll only dismiss her again. And then, one night, she sees it. A figure, faint but undeniable, lurking behind the wallpaper's twisted patterns. A woman. Her breath catches as she steps back, trying to convince herself it's a trick of the light, but it isn't. The woman in the wallpaper is real, and she's trapped. She grabs her journal and writes the words that will haunt her for days. There's someone behind it. From that moment on, the wallpaper isn't just a curiosity, it's a prison. And she's beginning to wonder if it's hers. She can't stop staring at it. The wallpaper is no longer just a decoration. It's a puzzle, a mystery she must solve. Day and night she watches the patterns, her mind racing. They seem to shift, almost like they're alive, revealing glimpses of the woman behind the wallpaper. "I can see her now," she writes in her journal. "She's creeping, crawling, trying to break free." The more she watches, the more she feels the wallpaper pulling her in, wrapping its sickly yellow tendrils around her thoughts. She knows she should look away, but she can't. Not anymore. She sees her now, not just as a shadow, but as a figure moving behind the patterns. The woman is trapped, bending and twisting as if the wallpaper itself is holding her prisoner. The narrator reaches out, tracing the lines with her fingers, desperate to understand. She whispers to herself, "I need to free her." But the wallpaper seems to mock her. It twists and ripples, keeping the woman just out of reach. And yet, the narrator can't look away. She's caught in its grip, just as the woman is. John begins to notice her distraction. He asks if she is sleeping, eating, or resting, as he's instructed. She nods, giving him the answers he wants to hear, but her mind is elsewhere, fixed on the woman in the wallpaper. "You're overthinking again," he says, placing a hand on her shoulder. "It's just your nerves." But he doesn't see what she sees. He doesn't understand the urgency. As he leaves the room, she returns to the wall, her heart racing. The woman behind the wallpaper is growing restless, and so is she. At night, the wallpaper comes alive. The moonlight transforms it into something sinister, something she can't ignore. She sees the woman more clearly now. Her hands press against the wallpaper, her movements frantic. She's not just trapped, she's desperate. The narrator's whispers fill the empty room. "I see you. I see what they've done to you." She feels a connection, a bond with this trapped figure. But as the night stretches on, a chilling thought creeps into her mind. Is the woman trying to escape or pull her in? The woman behind the wallpaper is no longer still. She's moving, crawling, creeping, pushing against the confines of her prison. The narrator feels it too, a strange urge to move as the trapped woman does. She begins creeping along the floor, following the lines of the wallpaper. "She's getting closer," she whispers, her voice trembling with fear and excitement. "I can feel her." Each night, the line between her world and the wallpaper's world blurs further. The woman isn't just trapped. She's alive, and she's calling out. She no longer eats, she barely speaks. The only thing that matters is the wallpaper. Her journal is filled with chaotic notes, scribbles that barely make sense even to her. "She's in there," she writes. "She needs me." Each day, her connection to the outside world fades. She avoids John, avoids everyone, retreating deeper into the room. The wallpaper has become her entire world, and nothing else matters. John confronts her, his voice filled with both worry and frustration. "You need to rest," he insists. "You're letting this get to you." But she doesn't hear him. Her laughter fills the room, sharp and hollow as if coming from someone else. "Rest?" she echoes, her eyes never leaving the wallpaper. "I am resting. I've never been so alive." John leaves the room, his concern growing, but it's too late. She's already gone, lost in the world of the wallpaper. On the final night, she can no longer contain herself. The wallpaper must come down. Her hands claw at the walls, pulling, tearing, ripping until the room is covered in shreds of yellow. She whispers to the woman inside, "I'll free you. I'll set you free." But as the wallpaper falls away, something strange happens. The woman behind it isn't just escaping. She's becoming one with her. The lines between them blur, and the narrator feels herself slipping, merging with the figure she's been watching for so long. When John finally enters, he finds her crawling, circling the room like a creature unleashed. The wallpaper is gone, ripped to shreds, and the woman he knew is gone with it. She looks up at him with a strange, triumphant smile. "I've done it," she says. "I've freed her." John stumbles back, his face pale, his body trembling. And then he faints, collapsing onto the floor. The narrator doesn't notice. She keeps creeping, circling the room over and over, whispering to herself, "She's free now." Or so she thinks. The room is a wreck. Shredded wallpaper, broken remnants of sanity, and an overwhelming sense of finality. The narrator keeps creeping, circling the room like a prisoner tasting freedom for the first time. Her whispers are unintelligible, her thoughts a blur. But is she truly free? Or has she simply traded one prison for another? The room, the wallpaper, the trapped woman, they've consumed her entirely. And now, there's no going back. The Yellow Wallpaper is not just a story of one woman's descent into madness. It is a powerful critique of society. The wallpaper represents the constraints placed on women, the bars on their freedom, the confinement of their creativity and individuality. The woman behind the wallpaper is not just a figure in the patterns. She is every woman, trapped by expectations, silenced by authority, and dismissed by those who claim to know what's best. And the narrator's obsession is not madness alone. It is a desperate attempt to reclaim control in a world that denies her autonomy. And so, the house stands silent, its secrets hidden behind its walls. The narrator may believe she's free, but at what cost? Her mind, her identity, her very sense of self, all consumed by the patterns of the yellow wallpaper. And though her story ends here, its echoes linger, a haunting reminder of the dangers of control, the weight of isolation, and the power of the human mind to both create and destroy. This is The Yellow Wallpaper, a tale of madness, confinement, and the desperate struggle for freedom.